Don't you know that not listening to the Shenmue AM2 podcast is way uncool?
Welcome back to another episode of the Shenmue AM2 podcast. We're your hosts, Andrew.
And Matt. I thought we were Mythbusters this week.
You know what? We might be Mythbusters this week. Anyone that tunes into Pete Campbell's Shenmue Lounge stream is going to know what I'm talking about. Let's go back.
You should go back to the legend.
We'll go back to the start. I played Shenmue 2 on Dreamcast because I didn't have an Xbox. My friend Peter, his now wife, won an Xbox 360, so he got that. I was like, hey Peter, can I have your Xbox? Because I had Shenmue 2 for the Xbox, but I hadn't played it. So he gives me his Xbox. I play Shenmue 2. I played it every once in a while, every few years. This was like, I graduated university like 7 or 8 years ago. So I pop it in every once in a while. I had a bunch of other games for it. I wanted to play it one time and it died.
Oh.
So just had an Xbox, it didn't work. I'm at a thrift store called Value Village, and I see this monstrosity on the shelf. It's an Xbox, and what appears to be another Xbox attached to the bottom of it. It's this really high-tech AV selector thing. I was like, $14.99. If this Xbox doesn't work, at least they'll have this thing on the attachment on the bottom. I do need to get a working Xbox. I have a ton of games that I want to play. So I get it home, and it sits there for about a month. And I'm like, one night, I should test this thing. So I pop it in.
You should test this product I paid money for.
So I finally hook it up, and it works. And not only does it work, it also has software mod on it. It's got emulators for Super Nintendo and Nintendo on it. It's got this attachment on the bottom, AV selector. It's missing some of the cords though, so it's at the rate in this moment in time it's useless. And I'm like, okay, I have a working Xbox because I have a ton of games for it. One of the games I have is ESPN NFL Football. Really what it is, back in the Dreamcast when the whole EA Sports Saga deal fell through, Sega started making their own football games. NFL 2K, 2K1, 2K2, 2K3, 2K4. Not 2K4. In 2K, what would have been 2K4, they really wanted to emphasize their partnership with ESPN, so they called it ESPN NFL Football. And they did that for hockey and college basketball as well, I think, that year. They wanted to differentiate themselves from Madden. The following year, they actually released NFL 2K5 as a budget title for like $20 to really undercut Madden, and then EA Sports signed an exclusive deal with the NFL, so no more football games. Why I had ESPN NFL Football, when I bought it, I wasn't a huge football fan, was because apparently Ryo Hazuki was an unlockable character in it. This game was released for Xbox and PS2. So I'd always kind of wondered if he was actually in the game, because I scoured the internet and the only information I could find about it was like on websites like GameFAQs, where you look at a GameFAQ for it would say unlockables, and there was Ryo Hazuki. They said there was like Beat from Jet Grind or Jet Set Radio, and a few Virtua Fighter characters.
Like the sumo guy, I think?
Yep, the sumo guy, Jeffrey McWild, Kage, and there might be others as well.
But Ryo Hazuki is playable in a football game, apparently.
Yes. There was zero photographic evidence of this ever on the internet.
But people had heard of it?
It was in the cheat code list. So,
but nobody had ever said, hey, I've done this successfully.
Yeah, and there was no photos of it on the internet, anything. So I now have a working Xbox. I have the game. I'm going to give this a shot. Now, what you needed to do to unlock Ryo is, I think, why no one had ever really tried to do it. A, because you have to be a Shenmue fan and a football fan. You need to
Those don't overlap.
You need to know about this unlockable thing. It's a really niche market here that we're talking about. Did you know about it before?
Heck no.
So, you needed to get 100 interceptions. Getting an interception in a football game in real life can be pretty difficult. In a video game, it can be pretty difficult. And I needed to get 100 of them. So I started doing some research on how to do this. Everyone seemed to think you needed to do it in franchise mode. Mm-hmm. And the problem is you need to keep winning in franchise mode to keep your coach and everything hired. Everyone still has to have their job. It's like the season mode, I guess you could call it. Mm-hmm. But it's really hard to win a football game when all you're trying to do is get interceptions. Because you still need to kick your field goals, get your touchdowns, get your extra point and all that stuff. So, I put it in, and my strategy was, I'll pick the best team in the league, and that year it was I think they were in Oakland at that point in time, the Oakland Raiders. So I picked the Oakland Raiders, and I start playing a season. I put it to 6-minute quarters. I think you had to leave the settings at default. You couldn't put it on the easiest mode or anything. In the first quarter of the first game, I got 3 interceptions. Mm-hmm. This might not be that bad. Mm-hmm. I finished the game, I think I had 11 interceptions. It's okay, I can just pop this game in once, every couple nights and do this. Mm-hmm. So I got to about, I think...
Does it get harder as the season goes on? Is that it? Difficulty gets harder?
It depends on which team you're playing, right? There are good teams and there are bad teams. Mm. And it also depends on, what type of offense they're running, because they might not even throw the ball. They might just run the ball, and fumbles don't count. It has to be interceptions. But what I noticed about the game, because I used to play NHL 2K5, there was always 2 save files. There was your profile and then your season. And this game was no different. You had your profile and you had your franchise mode, as they called it. So I wanted to see if the tracking of the stats was attached to the franchise or the profile, because the profile loaded automatically when you when you get into the game. So obviously it's really hard to do this by myself. Mm. So I yell at my wife. I'm like, "Hey, come here!"
Yell at your wife?
Yeah. I'm like, "I need your help with something." So at this point in time, I think I was at about 30 or 40 interceptions. I had put a decent-sized dent in it, but I was getting to the point where I was having games with 1 or 2 interceptions or no interceptions. Mm. I had started out strong, but that was dwindling fast. Mm-hmm. So I said, and she plays a lot of video games, but we play Mario Kart and Smash Bros. And stuff. On rail, light gun shooters. She loves House of the Dead.
Football is not her
Football is not her forte. Mm-hmm. So we come up with the idea of, I picked the best team in the league, still the Raiders, and we picked the worst team for her, the 49ers. So, a little bit of technical football jargon here, I guess. Football, you have your quarterback's the guy that throws the ball. Mm-hmm. The guys that run down the field, generally on the outskirts of the field, near the sidelines, are your wide receivers. Those are the guys that it's probably easiest to get an interception from. So what we would do is we would set her up with a play where she would only have 1 wide receiver on the left side of the field. Mm-hmm. And then I would pick a defensive play where I had 3 defensive players doing zone defense on the left side of the field. She would hut the ball.
So the ball is going to one spot and there's 3 of your guys and 1 of hers?
Yes. I literally would and this may not be the best methodology. Mm. It's just between those 2 teams, that was really the best way to do it. Mm. So
is it not manually controlled at all? Is it just you pick a play and you watch it go?
No, you still need to hut the ball, and I still can I pick one of the players on the field to be. Okay. And she's, the quarterback until whoever receives the ball or runs with it, that becomes her player. Okay. So I'm just making her throw the ball to the wide receiver on the left side of the field. I have 3 guys running. Well, my whole team's running zone defense, but there's 3 guys that are concentrating on that side. And we get an interception on, I think, the first or second throw. Okay. So then we play the game. Goes back and forth. And I think, in that game, like 20 interceptions.
Holy cow.
I'm like, okay, this is a much, much, much better way to do this.
But do they count?
That was the question. So you unlock various things. So I noticed while I was playing, I got a pop-up because my profile's still loaded in the game. It was like, you've gotten 50 interceptions. So, okay, so this is working.
Yeah, multiplayer counts.
Multiplayer counts as long as your profile's loaded. So I was like, we're off to the races.
Time to bust this myth.
I was still playing the game, like still trying to win. And I would just, she would play and she's not good, so I'd win. But it took time. So I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So we came up with this great idea. What we would do, same play. I would hopefully intercept the ball. So in football, the whole concept is you have 4 tries to move the ball 10 yards. If you don't, the other team gets the ball.
Yeah.
So most of the time when you're on 4th down, people just punt it to the other team, because if you don't punt it and kick it down the field, they get it from where it is on the field at that point in time. So I can't guarantee my guy is going to catch the ball, intercept it every single time. And you don't want to, I can't hit her player because I'll get pass interference penalties. So if we got to the point where we were on 4th down, I would just cross the line, the encroachment line, get a 5-yard penalty, and I'd do it again. So it gets her those 10 yards. It would reset the 10 yards. She's back to 1st down again. When I intercepted the ball, I would immediately punt it back to her. And we'd do it again. And in the final game that we needed to do this, in the first quarter, I think I had 24 interceptions. So if you put in the time and the effort of this thing that people think was incredibly hard, if you set the quarter length long enough, you can do this in a game. One single game.
Whoa.
As long as you have someone that is willing to just sit there and throw the ball and keep throwing it at the same player, and the minute you intercept it, punt it back to that team so they have the ball again, because you don't want the ball.
Yeah.
Once you have the ball, you can't intercept it, so you need to give it back to the other team. So punt it. You can do this in one game. No one had ever done it before.
That's
and
crazy.
I just sat there, and I was like, well, this game is now part of my Shenmue collection because Ryo Hazuki's in it.
Which you discovered is not a myth.
It's not a myth. And once I started doing it, because as I'm playing through the season, I'm unlocking other things. Like when I had the ball, there was, if you ran for so many yards, you'd unlock things. And you have what's known as the crib, and I'm saying that air quotes, at your house.
Yeah. And
you can trick it out with all this stuff. And one of the things you can unlock is posters. And they have posters for all these obscure Sega games that are out at the time, like I think they have one for Spike Out. They have one for that Saga Beach volleyball game that was out.
For GameCube?
Yeah, for GameCube. They have posters for, like, Phantasy Star. They have posters for all these games that people that are necessarily playing football game might not be completely aware of. So I knew was beginning to think, because every other thing that was listed on the game facts was happening.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's true. It has to be true. And when we got down to the final thing, like, I had set up a camera so I could take, like, snapshots of it, because I don't have capture equipment right now. And, like, when we were down to the 99 interceptions, like, my wife's like, you're getting kind of freaked out by this. Like, yeah, like, I'm discovering, like, proving, I guess, not discovering, because someone had clearly done it and knew about it, posted on GameFAQs, but no one had ever actually documented it in any way, shape, or form. So I unlocked Ryo. He's number 26. He's positions known as free safety. So he only plays on the defensive side of things. What makes it really hard, though, is that game has a salary cap. And because his stats are nearly perfect,
of course,
it's like $9 million to sign him. So you need to release players from their contracts, which you pay a penalty under salary cap rules. So if I release someone that's being paid $3 million, it doesn't free up $3 million of the salary. It might free up like $2 million of the salary. But the thing is, you have to have so many players on your roster. You have to fill all the positions. So you just trade away you release guys, sign crappier players to get this in.
So when you unlocked it, you didn't have enough money to actually use them yet?
I had to really, really adjust my roster. And at that point in time, I had signed Taka Arashi. Is that the sumo wrestler from Virtua Fighter? I had signed him already. And he was obviously a massive contract. And part of it's negotiating, too. What they want isn't necessarily what you have to pay them. So I tried just lowballing him with like $1 million. That didn't work.
Ryo is a diva. He needs that. He needs that cash.
So once I finally got him on the team, then I went into a game hoping to win the coin toss so I could pick to kick the ball. So my team would be on defense, and then sub him into the lineup, and then I had to go into let a play happen, go into the instant replay, and then like zoom the camera in and around him to get the shots off my television of him. But it was really neat, and like I waited till Pete Campbell did his Shenmue Lounge Christmas stream to kind of present it out there, and I threw the pictures up on our Facebook page. I want to throw the ones up of Beat. I showed Matt Beat.
That is not Beat. That is somebody wearing Beat's face. Somebody took the skin right off Beat's face and just like stapled it to their own face. It's monstrous.
It's funny because like the sumo wrestler Taka, his face looks very similar to his face in Virtua Fighter. Ryo's face, there's no band-aid.
He doesn't really look like Ryo.
He looks like a generic Asian person.
He looks like a guy that has Ryo Hazuki on his jersey or whatever. That's about it.
Yeah. And keep in mind, too, Beat is coming from a game that's cel-shaded and being put into a realistic-looking football game, and whoever did it put in little to no effort.
Yeah.
You can see his neck, and you can see where the cel-shading stops and the regular skin tone starts.
Yeah.
And it looks... it's a monstrosity.
Yeah.
I just want to take it out back and just put 2 bullets.
It's the stuff of nightmares.
So, yeah, it was pretty exciting, and a lot of people that were watching the stream Pete's stream when I released it, were pretty surprised by it. And people were like, "Oh, myth busted! Like this is a real thing."
Yeah.
And it was neat to kind of.
You should have got this on what's that old Game Trailers Game Sleuth, or that's Easy Allies one.
Easy Allies is Game Sleuth.
Yeah, you should have done that.
But it was something that people kind of always knew about. Now, what else makes this story kind of neat is this game also came out on PS2.
Oh, yeah?
So I want to find a copy of it for the PS2.
And do it again?
And do it again. Not to mention, this Xbox that I have, all Xboxes are kind of sketchy. So I didn't want it to be on the hard drive and then this Xbox die. So we have a local kind of pawn shop here called Beats and Bytes. And I found an original Xbox memory card.
Nice.
And like anytime I was saving it to hard drive, saving it to memory card, saving it to hard drive, saving it to memory card. Because I didn't want to lose this.
Yeah. Can you upload them from that to the internet somewhere?
There may be a device somewhere.
'Cause I thought you used to be able to download game saves off of GameFAQs from certain systems, but I can't remember which ones.
You may be able. I do have something from the Dreamcast that allows you to do it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get the PS2 version of it to add it to my Shenmue collection. So I've been searching high and low, and I might put like a Kijiji ad out for it. They're like the Canadian version of Craigslist.
The good thing about sports games is when they get old, they're like worth pennies.
Oh, they're worth pennies. So my wife and I were out shopping, and I said, "Hey, I want to stop at Beats and Bytes just to see if they have it." I go in, and I'm looking and looking and looking, and they do not have it. And then in the corner of my eye in the Xbox section, I see a copy of it. Now, Beats and Bytes, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of used games, all across various platforms. I take it off the shelf, and it's still sealed for some reason. And I'm like, this is the only sealed game in this entire... They don't sell new games.
Yeah.
This is the only sealed game in the entire store. Why is this here? I had never noticed it before. I hadn't seen it before.
It was a hot stolen property that you were holding in your hands, stolen right off a Sega truck.
And it was $5, still sealed. So I bought it. It's still sealed. I still have it. I don't know if I'm ever going to open it.
There's no point unless your other disc breaks.
Yeah. And then once I announced it, I did notice. I can't remember if it was on our Facebook page or on Pete's stream, but 2 people went onto eBay and actually bought this game immediately.
Wow.
once this was there, which you see, like when someone talks about a video game, like the Game Chaser show on YouTube, when they do an episode about something rare and it could potentially like inflate the price of it.
Yeah.
I was like wondering, have I inflated the price of
you got the
ESPN NFL Football?
Just briefly, ever so much. And you've got a sealed copy.
I have a sealed copy, so I'm going to try to inflate it and put my I was going to say my kids through college. I don't have kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put myself through college again. I don't want to go.
I'm still paying off college the first time.
Yeah.
Stupid student loans.
You're going to die with those loans in your body.
So yeah, I by chance found a used Xbox, bought it, decided to put this game in. It worked, and I unlocked something that no one had ever seen before.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to upload the photos of the other players. I think I have all of the characters unlocked. There's some Virtua Fighter ones and then Beat. But their names are actually in one of the photos. It says like K Maru, J McWild. I think it just says Beat for him.
Just Beat. He's like Cher.
Roseanne.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
That's neat. So something new discovered related to Shenmue and football in 2017.
Yeah.
That was released back in 2004. So, you can find us on social media. We are Shenmue AM2 Pod on Twitter, Shenmue AM2 Podcast at gmail.com, Shenmue AM2 Podcast on Facebook. We have a page and a group. And we are youtube.com/Shenmue AM2 Podcast. Please subscribe, like, thumbs up, all that good stuff.
And we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, the MJQ Jazz Bar,
where it's always a pool party with sailors. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.